Don't say Cherry Street repeats. Don't.
The trauma responsive.
It's the worst word.
It's terrible. It's terrible.
Hey, how are you?
So one time you asked, I have to say when you asked. I don't remember that.
No, I got the door wasn't open for my friend, so I had to run around the other side. I'm so sorry.
All right, I've got 6:30, so I'm going to call this to order. Thanks everybody for being here, and I'm going to say we don't have an executive session, so I'm going to invite you to stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Need a motion to approve the minutes from the 9/24/24 regular meeting.
Second.
Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, I do have a few comments to open us up here. When we get to the personnel section, just note that there has been some shifts to that. If you want to look online and see what those changes are, it is around the athletics and the coaching area. So just for the board's aware that we moved some things around with that. And that's all that I have as an update to the agenda. Superintendent.
I have one comment or one highlight this evening. I'm going to ask our high school principal, Mr. Van Etten, to come forward and talk to us about a student that has received some recognition for her academic achievement.
Thanks, Superintendent Turk. Anna Ballins is going to stand up with me. I've warned her I'm going to embarrass her a little bit here and talk about her accomplishments. It's the if you stand on that side of the audience, I'll stand on this side. We'll face one another. It's the uniqueness of presenting midstream here. Each fall, we have talked about presentation of students' information and then choices of being made on taking the PSAT and SAT. Hannah is one of our homework cohort who took the PSAT last year, and her score, it sounds like 50,000 is a lot of students. When you think of probably millions of kids that take the PSAT across the country, it's a very small fraction. So Hannah's our local student who's a commended student in the National Merit Scholarship Corporation's annual Merit Scholarship. The College Board provides us with a letter of commendation to present to you, so we want to do that. But more importantly, obviously, we want to call to attention your achievement in earning commended status. 1.6 million students MFS. There's that actual number. So placing in the top of that list is an accomplishment, and certainly not one that we have often or a lot of students attaining. So we want to take a moment to celebrate you, Hannah, and congratulate you on that. So with that, I'm going to shake your hand. It's okay. I'm going to respond to that. If you know Hannah, you're not surprised. A very wonderful young person, very humble. You saw her get back to your seat and not stand in that spotlight for very long.
Congratulations.
To our board presentation.
Yes, our first board presentation, now, for those of you that come to these meetings regularly, we normally meet out at the H-Tech building, but when we have a focus in each of the buildings, we like to be in the actual building proper to kind of show it off and to explore the space a little bit. Tonight, we have a high school update for you. Mr. Van Etten has a wonderful group of young people who are going to talk to us about some of the things that they've been able to do with the activity period that has been a change this year and is available for every student at the high school. So, Mr. Van Etten, I'll give it to you.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. There's going to be a couple slides before you, but really the meat and potatoes of tonight's presentation are our students here. We're going to talk to you about that. We want to give you the opportunity really to hear student feedback on the activity period, which really is probably at the high school the most significant, Josh, you know, it's like most significant change in the schedule for the school day. There's our schedule, you know, as you've seen it before. It really doesn't look a lot different from prior years. The biggest thing, again, is that end of the day with an activities or activity period that's included within the instructional day. And so what has that allowed us to do? Students are gonna talk to you about that, but what I would share with you, go ahead and introduce your, okay, is it's allowed us to give more access for all of our students to clubs, to activities, to some interactions here during the school day, that bring students and staff together. So I've asked our students that are here tonight to talk about a couple of things. Go back, Josh. The two questions really that I posed to their advisors who are here with them, to find a couple of students who are willing to share with us just over a couple minutes. How is that changing the activity period to being a part of the schedule they help your club or organization? It's been very interesting again to see the amount of involvement, increase in student involvement in various clubs and activities. And what is the club working on during the activity period? How often again is the club doing that? So you've got 4 different organizations that are represented tonight. Mr. Finn will advance that slide so you get a sense of who is here. We're gonna hear from them in that order. So Mr. Baldwin is gonna start as our Frisbee Club advisor. And you might have said, I didn't know the high school had a Frisbee Club. And interestingly enough, prior to this September, it really didn't. To Mr. Baldwin's credit, he's met a student request, and I'll let you share the rest of the story versus stealing the thunder.
Before Mr. Baldwin starts, if you were to ask me who on the staff most closely represents the Frisbee, it's Mr. Baldwin.
Is that because I float so?
You do. You glide, Mr. Baldwin.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. I'd like to thank the board for giving me an opportunity to bend your ear for a minute. I'll try to be brief. This started with 2 young students that approached me during the first week of school. Those 2 students were Mason Hall and, Cameron O'Connell. They approached me, and Cameron really wanted to start an alternate Frisbee club, and they wanted a faculty advisor to make that happen. I said, speak to Mr. Van Etten, we're starting this, we don't really know how it's gonna work out. They spoke to him, he said okay, they spoke to me, I said okay, and we went from there. We've got about 15 or 20 young fellas that show up once a week to burn some energy, playing ultimate Frisbee. They're mainly sophomore boys, but they're having a blast. Cameron wrote something. I'm sorry the 2 fellas that started this aren't here tonight. His comment to me was, I wanted to create this club because my dad played ultimate Frisbee here when he was a student in the late 90s. And for him, it was something that was a really important connection to his family and what his dad did. We created a Google Classroom. Cameron runs the whole thing. We meet every Monday to figure out what is the best day of the week to do it based on the week's weather, and we go from there. The last thing I'd like to say is that another comment from a student was that this really means a lot to me in that it provides an opportunity for some freedom and to burn some energy in a fun activity after the school day. Ladies and gentlemen, do you have any questions for me?
Where are you
Oh, we started over here, because my classroom is the first one as you come in, and there was about 20 boys out there in that little tiny bit of grass. I'm surprised no one was creamed by a car. And I'm surprised that Mr. Turk's truck didn't get dented, but they had a really good time, and I said, we've gotta move, so we moved to the other side, kind of like underneath the cafeteria between there and the music room. And that works really well. They're playing east or west. Any other?
Thank you, Mr. Baldwin. You've heard us. We brought our DECA students to speak to you before. You've heard some of DECA activities. Jim's group, as he just introduced, is something relatively new. DECA has been with us now a couple years, but it's been interesting to see how involvement's changed with DECA. Ann Aldrich, who's the president of the organization, is here to talk with us tonight. Doesn't look like the other folks were coming in there, but knowing Anna,
twins are at work.
knowing Anna, she's got this stuff.
Yeah, so in activity period, we actually, the last couple Tuesdays we've met here. So we had a meeting today. Last year we had 18 DECA members, but really only 10 participated a lot. But this year, currently we have 43 members. It's increased greatly. Today we went on a field trip with Mr. Ebner to Cortland, and the activity period has helped us a lot. During the activity period, we not only discuss what our club's going to do, but its activities throughout the next weeks. We've started to do studying and practice role plays, which is what we'll do in the competitions at regionals in the next couple weeks. That is occurring in December is when that happens. So we have to take a 100-question quiz, and we also have to do a role play. So we've been studying for that. Today we played Pictionary, which was business themed, which was super fun. And but it's definitely helped in the fact that a lot of kids who didn't have rides home could get rides home. There isn't as much time, but it's a give or take, you know what I'm saying? And it's been so awesome that we could have that many people join our club, and I just am so happy for it. That's really all I have to say. Does anybody have any questions, or?
Thank you.
Sporting the DECA blazer. From our student government tonight, Ava Bailey, Stevie Hartnett, Ruth Deline, and Carabella are here. They're officers of the student government. Mrs. Levis here, they're one of their advisors. So I asked them to come up to just talk to you a little bit briefly about that. Similarly, involvement in student government has increased, so.
Hi guys, student government has increased significantly since activity period. We have over 20 members now. We even had to have on Wednesdays, we had to have just officer meetings just so we can schedule what we're gonna do on Thursdays and get it done. And especially with like buses, we can on that.
Well, last year it was hard for me to get to student gov meeting because sometimes the buses got canceled because it was like there was an activity period last year, but now it's mandatory to stay for activity period.
I've seen a lot of increase in support and interest in the club, even if it's not from prospective members. They're still more interested about the club because they have more time on their hands to think about things they could be doing for the school. And even if they don't want to join, they want to help us plan things, which is really exciting because I don't think we've ever seen that support before from the student body. And it's all different grade levels too, and that's what we wanted. Is we want to hear freshmen and sophomores, juniors, and seniors come together and really talk about what they want to see for their school, what spirit weeks we can represent, all those things. So it's been a really, really big help for us, especially with having those extra meetings on Wednesdays. It really works out for us. So, any questions from you guys? Thank you.
Finishing off, representing the fitness club, Mrs. Wakula, club advisors here, as well as Isabel Garcia and Chloe Witt. I have a letter to read from a student that came along as well. I asked Mrs. Wakula to read it. She said it would probably be better and easier for me to read. So I'll finish.
I might get emotional.
Well, you got to finish.
Hey guys. Fitness has helped us a lot more
buses were harder to transportation for kids to actually come to fitness club. And since we have activity period this year, it's more like easier for kids to come in and then more buses, they can just like get out and like go wherever they need to go. And we have more kids this year than last year because it was just more harder for kids to like get in and out, and they didn't have transportation at the time, and just more of the laziness.
The one big thing about like fitness club is everybody knows that Planet Fitness, you have to pay a certain amount, and some kids, usually don't have that privilege, to go out and something's all the time. So like at the end of school, it's great to have something like fitness club that you can go free and have like really supportive people that are always there and cheering you on. And like also like at a gym too, it's like sometimes you don't know like what to use or how to use it. And Wakula is like a great person to ask about how she's always willing to help. She's always gives the best tips about how to stay safe and like
Use the right equipment, how to use the
yeah.
right.
And she makes sure everybody has fun, everybody has a good time, and that everybody's respectful and treats them, which is great. And I just feel like that's great to have that big community and everybody treats everybody nicely. Also, you can also just like, right, like great people, you make new friends there, even if it's just fitness clubs, and you don't have to go in to work out sometimes, you do like fun things like football and stuff, so.
Any questions?
Christine?
Thank you, ladies.
I just want to say we meet Monday through Wednesday for the fitness portion, and we meet on Thursdays to, kind of go over anything called housekeeping, and then we talk about the next week's activities, so the kids are really involved, and, we have 50 kids, and typically we have 25 that show up every day, and then, for the meetings, we have 31, I don't know what that's about, but we have a meeting, and then and all over the place.
So Nate Williams wanted to be here with us. Nate's one of the fitness club members and wanted to be, he's a senior at Homer High School. Since I couldn't be here tonight, I wanted to say a few things about fitness club. Anyone who knows me will tell you that I don't become engaged in much outside of video meetings and such. That I've been to fitness club since the first day it started, and I think fitness club is just as important as any other club at Homer High School. It's a fun place for everyone to be involved. It allows people to socialize and build upon a person's physical and mental well-being. Through my gate, I was never allowed to play sports, therefore fitness club is a fun alternative for others like me who aren't able to play sports but want to enjoy doing something similar. Fitness clubs helped me become more social, especially when I was a new student. It helps me with my mood, especially on difficult days when I need to let out some frustration or anxiety. It's a safe place for everyone, no matter your size or strength or what parts of your body you want to work on. I'm hoping more and more students will join fitness club and see all the benefits it has to offer. Sincerely, Ms. Williams. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, ladies. I don't have an exact number of all the different clubs at this point that are meeting, and there continue to be conversations about, with students about new group forming. Similar things that, here as you talk to students about the activities that are going on. Interestingly, today I had an email from a student on this year. One of the groups that's meeting on a regular basis is the Ionian. The Ionian is a collection of student work and student art that's been published twice a year. And this student was inquiring about the ability to partner with pre-K through 8 students and including artwork and potentially writing samples to make that a more district-wide publication, which was interesting to me as students were coming together and discussing and looking for things they can do. The staff has been challenged and the students have been offered the opportunity to bring clubs together. And it's nice to see that they're not just using the time period to have what they've had before, but look for ways to do it new and differently. You heard a lot of active, ongoing things that happen in activity period, but I want to tell you there's some students who look at it as an easy way to end their day. Calm or quiet or similar to what we did with homeroom and sack, a chance to catch your breath before you go on to what's next. But for those students who are involved in activities, it's allowed for us to have a way not just to continue those, but to grow those as you've heard tonight. So, like I said, probably the most significant change to our schedule this year, and certainly one that I believe has been beneficial for our students and staff. So, thank you, board, for your willingness to look at schedules and allow us the opportunity to make the additions of the instructional day that we have. Thank you, Mr. Curtis.
Thank you, Doug. Mr. Bowens has some certificates.
So when you present at the board, you get certificates, because that's what we do as a school. So I'm gonna try to make sure I catch the folks that are here. I know some folks had to move them along, and I'll give Mr. Van Etten those certificates. But So Anna, thank you so much for sharing about DECA and the difference that's made, the scheduling has made to that. And let's see, it's my quiz time to see if I paid attention while it was moving. Ruthalina, thank you for coming and sharing and being with us and helping us understand the impact of the activity period and the benefits to that. I'm skipping the staff. I have one for staff too, but we'll do you all at the end of that. So Chloe, thank you for sharing the impact of the fitness club and the time to do that. Isabella? Thank you. And then we have our staff folks, both Chris Wakula, Jim Baldwin, and Savannah Webb. So thank you for shepherding our students. They can't do it without you, literally and figuratively. So thank you so much for putting this extra piece into your work day. And then I'll get the rest to Mr. Van Etten. We'll make sure those students get those certificates. I would hope by now I know who's who.
Thank you very much, sir.
We'll get those delivered and presented.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
All right, thank you, everyone. If you can, feel free to stay for the entire meeting, but if you have other things you'd like to do, I'll just pause a second and you can make your way to exits and to the freedom that you all deserve. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, sir. Have a nice evening.
Our next presentation, we have been gathering all of our thoughts and information as it relates to the opening of school. We're going to ask a number of folks to speak to how the school year has kicked off. We're going to have folks from our strategic plan, facilitators, share their conversations thus far in the school year. We're also going to have department heads speak to how things have gotten off from their perspective. And then finally, we'll end with our building principals who will talk about enrollment and some of the highlights from this year so far, including how, as Doug mentioned, how some changes in the schedule have positively affected what's going on. So I know Jen Fox has asked to go first. I'm going to already throw a wrench in our conversation. So Jen, I know you have other business that you need to get to. So if you could start from the transportation department, please.
All right. It's good to see you all one time a year. So, and feel free anytime to come on down and say hi. Anytime, okay? So I did a little ditty here for you. I had specific questions that I was to bring information for. On the first page, the transportation statement, Nancy and I came up with this so that every time the phone rings, her and I are on the same page. We're saying the same things to the parents because there were a lot of changes for us this year. And there were some unhappy parents, but if we're both on the same page, we're both saying the same thing, that helps alleviate some of the pressure. And so that just says there what we tried our very best to say, whether it's in an email or if we're speaking on the phone. On the second page, challenges to the school year. This was, you guys asked for, well, Tom asked for this information. So a lack of drivers is huge for us. We have open positions. We have many, many people come through the door. I believe it's because they are looking for an easier way to get their license rather than become bus drivers. That's just my opinion, but I've seen enough people come through the door and then not come back to feel like people just are trying to get a Class B license. They know they can get it here or in any school district a lot faster than they can get it other places. So at this time, I am in need of 2 more full-time drivers. I could use 2 sub and sports drivers and 1 more bus monitor. Another challenge is people who are missing time. Right out of the gate, we have attendance issues all the time at the bus garage, but right out of the gate this year, they did not disappoint me. We have 1 bus driver who has jury duty every Friday from the 1st of October until the end of December on a Friday, and that is a huge day for us at the bus garage. Everybody wants Fridays off. I want Fridays off, but Mike does not allow me to do that, so. And there's COVID did go through the building pretty good last week, but people pretty much kept to themselves. Some of them had to take time off, but some of them, put masks on and still came in and did what they could do to help out. Concerns due to changes, I don't have any concerns because I have a positive attitude about things. But there were some upset bus drivers when we kicked this off. There was a lot of negativity, but I just keep right on going with it, and it's gonna be fine, everything's gonna be fine. Some parents, not very many, Tom and Mike didn't really share a whole lot with me, so there were a handful of upset parents, but nothing that couldn't be dealt with. And, so it's getting easier. The phone's ringing a lot less now, and what we have to deal with now is just a little bit of tidying up, nothing that we can't handle. The next page, shortest, middle, and longest. So I didn't want to give you all 88 routes on a piece of paper. So what I did was I picked the squirrel route, which is the first one. This is the elementary PM run. So the squirrel one is always back first. And the flamingo is kind of hanging out in the middle. She's not early, she's not late. And the peacock, ever since I've ever worked at Homer, the peacock bus has always been the last one in. And believe it or not, it's because he cares so much. So he just takes his time with every stop and makes sure every kid gets in the house. And that's just the way it is. So there's a little bit of information there where we started on 9/4. Where we went out of the gate at 4:20 and now we're getting out of the gate at 3:55 yesterday. So things are definitely improving. Nothing but good stuff in the future. Run information, you wanted me to compare last year to this year. Last year we had 98 runs going out of the building, and this year we have 88. And the reason for that is we no longer have late buses. So we had 4 late buses and they all had a couple other runs that went along with that. Over the summer, we worked very hard to combine runs, fill the buses up a little bit more. And by doing that, we were able to eliminate 10 runs, but that doesn't eliminate our need for more help. Students transported this year, you see that right there in front of you. In the morning, we have 1,254 kids on our buses. And in the afternoon, we have 1,271 kids riding the buses. And on the last page is the mileage. I'm not sure who asked me for that. I think maybe Mike or Tom asked me for that. But that is the mileage for every bus route that we have. And this number does not include midday runs and whatever trips that we take, sports or field trips throughout the day. This is just your daily, every day. There will be that many miles. Good. Any questions?
I have some questions. I do.
Okay.
So I want to go back to the second page, when you say that they're getting their license, are they
Yes.
actually fulfilling the class and getting the license and then walking away?
No.
Okay.
They are, so we explained to them that they have to get their license and stay here for 3 months, and then they can get paid for their training. And they pretty much, and another thing on that is drug testing. I wanted to mention that. When I mentioned that to them, some people don't come back. So it's 2 things. It's the drug testing and people wanting to get a license but don't really want to be bus drivers. You can just get a feeling from people by the way they ask questions, and it just sends up red flags, and then they just don't come back.
My other question is was it ever evaluated how many runs leave the elementary and intermediate?
18 buses and 2 vans.
So was it ever evaluated if 9 buses went to one school and filled up and just took the kids home versus the other 9 buses go to another school and fill up and take the kids home, so we're not sharing between 2 buildings? What the evaluation of the difference would be for that?
It's never been evaluated that I know of.
If that was ever, sometimes I wonder if sharing the buses is part of the challenge.
Right.
Because it delays, and I know you have to stop at the railroad. So I was just curious what the data was.
You know, that's an interesting question though, and I was about to say before we started, there may be some questions that we'll say we'll have to get back to you on, but one thing that does come to mind when you ask that is we have students from the same family in multiple buildings. And the first thing that I thought of when you said that is Jen, if we had a bus go to the elementary only and the intermediate only, we might have two buses going to the same house. Because and we have, I'm sure we have that number somewhere about how often that happens. But that would be interesting to look at, but that's my first thought, and we'd be duplicating efforts, as opposed to simply just driving across town. And now, and we'll talk about the length of time that we have our dismissal down to now. It's just a matter of minutes, and so, but that's my first thought as I heard you.
Could we do it logistically with?
Your routes would be way longer, your time on the bus would be a lot longer.
Yeah.
Right.
Like if you're
I would
taking
think so.
18 routes down to 9 routes, they're gonna be a longer route.
And the
and more
mileage
time
would
on
be
the
a lot
bus.
higher,
Yeah.
yes. Because you might have kids in the intermediate who live out in Truxton and their siblings are at the elementary, so now we've
Now
got,
we've got two buses
we've
going
got
to truck.
4 buses going, out there, so.
Sometimes I wonder if it wins out some of the challenges that we have. Especially if you were to delay one school from the next school, so that buses aren't actually following each other down the road and stopping at every stop behind the buses in front of them. I was just curious if it's ever been looked at and
Right.
what the reasons of why it wouldn't work.
Any other questions for Jen? Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I'll come
I'll drink it.
Thank you. Have a great night. Good luck, you guys.
Jen, did you hear?
Jen, you can come visit us, we're here twice a month.
Be careful what you ask for, Jen. All right, thank you. We'll get back on schedule now. So what we'll go to our strategic plan facilitators, and then we'll go to department heads after that. So, Mr. Finn, I'll help you, but Josh and I are the co-facilitators of the Community Engagement Committee, and want to give you an update on where we're starting the school year.
Waiting for you to help me.
Oh, I will.
Oh, that's all right. I think I can handle it. So the Community Engagement Task Force has scheduled our first meeting for the school year. I think there's 3 or 4 of you on the board that got an invitation from me recently. And the goal of the meeting is to evaluate the new plan briefly, and then to look at what our priorities will be. As I think you'll probably hear from some of the other groups, we're really down into like the meat and potatoes of the plan now, so a lot of the work is gonna be not necessarily the committees themselves, so much as the committees setting up the benchmarks and mile markers that we're trying to get to, the milestones. But then we'll be taking that work and then working on it in other groups. The primary thing I think we'll probably be looking at in our first meeting is highlighting what we want to do, and I think that the communications plan is probably high on our list. And then one thing that we have been focusing on, and we'll double down our efforts on, is making sure that we get the broadest representation of the community as possible, so that we can actually speak to their needs. And I think we have to be a little bit more intentional and deliberate. I think we're gonna have to knock on some doors and pull on some shirt sleeves to try to get some people to be involved. We've gone to the well a couple times, and I think we're gonna need to try some new things to get some new folks. How to do?
Right. Thank you, Josh. Let's go to our student engagement, Mr. Ebner and Mr. Medori.
Thank you very much. We represent the facilitators of the Student Engagement Task Force. Our first meeting is scheduled for October 24th, and we have 23 members on our committee that periodically met over the last couple of years, and you're going to hear some of the same things Josh just said. Six of those 23 are students, and they all responded that they can make the next meeting. So it'd be hard pressed to have a student engagement committee without students there. So what we're planning to do at that particular meeting is our strategic plan consists of 3 parts, each part consisting of the same subparts, which are charges and strategies. So our goal at our next meeting will determine the metrics of our charges. how are we gonna measure the success of how students are feeling, like they feel like they belong in school? Do they have access to extracurricular and co-curricular activities? Do they have voice and choice in their learning? Finding ways to determine how we're gonna measure whether that's happening in our schools across the district. And then our strategies, the second part of our meeting, we're gonna focus on our 5 strategies, and what we're gonna develop is an implementation timeline. Some of those strategies are already in process. We've been working with our curriculum development process over the last 3 years. We're in year 4 of that. That's an ongoing, but there's 4 other strategies that are gonna take us some time. And we don't wanna try to do every one the first year and end up not getting anything completed. So we're gonna put implementation timeline and put benchmarks on the calendar and see where we end up. Does anybody have any questions for the Student Engagement Task Force facilitators? Awesome, thank you.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. And our last group, the Social Emotional Learning Task Force, Aaron Hammis and Mr. Chris Moore.
Hello, everybody. I think we look at ours maybe slightly differently than what the initial 2 groups have presented. If you recall, basically all of our items and strategies that we're working on are things that have already started in process. In our strategic plan for this past 5 years, many of those items that we were charged with were the identification of certain things like SEL curriculum, training for staff and social emotional and classroom management strategies, etc. We've done those initial identifications, so a lot of the work that we're doing now is going to be revolving around taking those next steps. So it's great to have identified them, but now how do we make sure that we're implementing them and using them with fidelity and doing so effectively, and that it's working for the purposes that we've identified them for. So part of what our next steps are going to be, we meet October 23rd. We're going to be working with our group to find out how the task force members, because we do have those members that are in the community as well as those who are most of our school community. So we'll find out how those members who maybe aren't a part of any of our building cultures want to and can be involved in the work that we're going to be doing, because a lot of these things have groups that have already been created as a part of those initial steps to help us along with that work. So we'll identify those next steps in each of them, which is a little bit different than I think some of the other ones. We need to keep the train rolling on 4 or 5 different things that have already been started so that they don't lag behind or get kind of lost in the shuffle of the things that we're doing. So we're going to be taking some simultaneous next steps across each of our strategies.
Nailed it.
Thanks.
Anybody have any questions for us?
How is the curriculum going with it? Because I know that, I think the elementary last year, you guys were rolling out that.
Still moving along, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll talk about it a little bit when Doug and I present, but at the elementary level, we're using the second step curriculum in all the classrooms, and we're building upon it, and all the buildings are using it.
So as a reminder on that one, it was basically a field testing of last year in that pre-K through 8th grade level. The second step, one of the reasons that we had identified that as a district is it's got the potential to now work pre-K through 12, and the connectivity of that instruction and that lesson was important for us. The 9 through 12 curriculum was not fully approved and vetted yet through second step. So this year, the high school will now be taking that step that the pre-K through 8 buildings did last year. So we will have it in place now to a degree, pre-K through 12, and so now we'll have that next step. We've got a year's worth of information that's helping us guide kind of what that looks like in year 2 at those other buildings, but it also helps us with some information in terms of how that can work at the high school setting.
I definitely think it's working. My daughter can express her emotions very well. I don't know if she can fix any of her problems.
John, wait till the junior high. Just wait till she gets there.
So you're welcome, and I'm sorry.
Is there any plans for looping in our custodians, our cafeteria, and our bus drivers? In the terminology that's being taught to the students and the staff?
That's a great idea. Honestly, that's not a conversation we've had. We've had conversations about how to have unified language, but really those have been conversations more about instructional staff, but you're right, those folks are really ingrained in what our building cultures are. So I think that's something we can definitely bring to the table to our group, is how can we incorporate that and provide information to those folks as well.
I also think it depends on a lot of things, like what are we talking about? Are we talking about PCI, are we talking about second steps? And, you know, it also depends on the building. So, I don't wanna steal my own thunder for later, but yeah, we kinda are at our building, including everyone, so I think it depends. What it is.
Hey, any questions for any of the folks from our strategic plan committee before we move forward? All right, thank you for your work, folks, appreciate it. Let's go to the department heads. I'm gonna have you sit down, Mr. Moore.
Okay.
And just because I wanna get to our buildings and grounds, Mr. Cavalier. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. You know, most of us look at the start of the school year as September for the staff and the students when they come back. My department, we look at July 1 or late in June when they all go home. Because that's when my group really has to buckle down and really has to work hard and get a lot of stuff done in just a couple months. And between, you know, my custodians and the maintenance guys doing all their PMs and the custodians doing all the cleaning, now you throw in right in the midst of a big capital project. Right, so my folks have been super, super flexible, working around those people that are building this project for us and redoing these rooms and spaces. They come in and clean, but it's not to my cleaners' standards, so they will come in and clean after them. Although it's a huge help that they do come in and clean, but they just don't, it's just not good enough for them, which is just awesome. I know when I'm at any sporting events, if I'm at a local sporting event, I hear people come in and they're talking about a pool and how clean our school is compared to others. Like, wow, your school is super clean. And that's just something that they all take pride in when they do clean. You know, the behind the scenes things with the maintenance guys and doing all their PMs, I mean, they spent all summer, again, working around the capital project and all the equipment, the new equipment they're putting in, or some old equipment they're trying to fix, and then the contractors are putting in new equipment and they have to work around them. So, you know, it's just a great, you know, little feather in their cap for the hard work that they do. And I always call them the unsung heroes because I don't think they get enough credit for the hard work that they do. You know, and on top of that, so, you know, Hannah was one that helped us out this summer. We have 30 summer cleaners that come in to help us, which is huge for the 17 cleaners that I already have. Some of those cleaners are also, you know, we had a couple TAs this summer. We had some people from our cafeteria staff, which wanted to come in, which that is just awesome because as adults, they can kind of help the kids, the new kids that are just learning what we do in the summer. I know when I came to the school district 10.5 years ago, I was like, cleaning, I mean, how much cleaning can you do? But it's unbelievable from the elementary level all the way up to the high school level, and just because of the age group difference and, you know, the difference in each school and what cleaning that has to be done. You know, so we've started, you know, because the kids are back in school and staff now, obviously we've had some COVID outbreaks in some of the different schools, so we've started our disinfecting, which is, you know, we do that every evening. We can't possibly get all the classrooms and all the spaces. You know, we clean 265 spaces in all 4 schools, 4 buildings, including the bus garage and H-Tech. And I mean, that includes, you know, 4 gyms, 5 cafeterias, libraries. That doesn't include bathrooms, which those are spaces that are still kind of, we have some punch list items, so they're still not up to snuff like we want them, but we are able to use them. It just takes a little bit more to clean those spaces, and takes a lot more time to get those up to our standards and what they really expect. So, you know, they work super, super hard, and I mean, they rarely have got, you know, a holiday weekend off because they're always in here, whether it's a sporting event or whatever. And those are the things that kind of get overlooked because of a sporting event. We need people here, and they're always here, and they're always willing. There's always somebody here and willing to help. And that is just, you know, tremendous to have a staff like that that's always willing to help. My maintenance guys are always willing to do whatever they can to work longer if they need to on a project, or if a heating unit's down, to get it ready in the morning. You know, we struggled with some things from the project that we couldn't figure out, some heating issues. We finally figured it out today with the help of our maintenance guys and the contractor. And, you know, we've got that resolved. So that's nice that it's behind us. when I come in tomorrow morning and I see that it's still there, we'll be good, that everything's good and heated. And you know, another thing I had wrote down is it really doesn't stop just at the cleaning part and the maintenance part, because of all the other things they do even outside. Some of my custodians will stay and they'll go supervise a game. So they could be here for, you know, 12, 14, 15 hours a day. Or they just stay because they need to set up for a board meeting. You know, they stay a couple extra hours for that. So, it's something that I'm really proud of, to have a team like that, and I think I have a really good team right now. This is the first year since COVID that I've actually had all my full-time positions full. I still have plenty of subs. I have some students now that are wanting to sub and help out a little bit, which is just great. I think last year we probably had 7 or 8 students that helped out almost every night, because I didn't have full-time people. I couldn't get full-time people. So that's just, you know, it just shows that those kids, you know, those kids that really wanna work, they come in, they do a really nice job. Nothing really new for this coming year, other than to try to keep up with cleaning behind the contractor, so to speak. Trying to keep up on any kind of sicknesses we may have through the schools, and trying to disinfect as many spaces every night as we can. And they're doing, you know, we have all the equipment they need, and they're doing a really good job of getting that taken care of. I think sicknesses aren't too bad from what I understand, but, you know, can come and go any day. Any questions for me? Thank you.
Thank you, Scott, appreciate it. Let's go to our tech department, Mr. Finn.
I don't know if you saw, I just switched on a different hat. So I really like the way Scott framed how the start of school starts, like, the minute the kids are gone, because we were doing the same thing. And we've been chasing around the capital project, and unfortunately, we're still chasing it around a little bit. Hopefully, some of those punch list items and some of those final things will get done, shortly. Similar to Scott, we had, summer helpers, but mine's not plural, it's singular. We had Mason Burhans help us out, this summer. He was a great help. Works full-time, and basically what we do is as a team, we identify that we have to get into every single classroom after, the custodians and cleaners, empty the room, clean it, they put it back together, and while they have a lot of skills, one of those skills is not reconnecting everything, unfortunately. So we need to get in there and make sure that when the teachers do arrive, the printers work, and the smartboard works, and the mouse works, and all that other stuff. So we hit 206 classrooms. We touched every single one-to-one device, pre-K-9, and in that work, we also every year replace 450 Chromebooks, so that means getting all that work, unboxing them, and all that stuff. So that's the physical boots on the ground stuff that we did, but we also this summer embarked on rolling out 2 pretty impactful software platforms. And you may have noticed when you hit your home button now, instead of a page that looks like I wrote it 5 years ago, it looks like a nice little launch pad with cute graphics. And that's our ClassLink service. And one of the things that we were able to do with ClassLink is actually choose which products we want to roster, which is sharing student information with those third-party applications. And we can do so in a very deliberate and intentional way. We can make sure that we only share the information that they need to have, and we can hide or obfuscate the information that they don't need to have. That's been a really big lift, but we now do that with 30 applications. And what's really nice about that is now a kid can click on a link, it'll know who they are, it'll know who their teachers are, and their teachers can assign work to them. We don't have to, for those 30 applications, remember to add Billy when he's a new student. We don't have to say it needs attached to Mrs. Lingrowski, and we don't have to say that he has this ELA third period. So that's one piece of software that we're working to kind of bring everything together. The other thing we've done is we've rolled out a new tech ticketing and inventory platform. While it may be a little bit invisible right now, one of the things that it also does is underpin some of our public events and our scheduling of physical spaces. We've worked closely with custodians so that they understand what it looks like when events are happening in their buildings, and they can see that in the future. We've worked with the other parties in the community who use our resources, so they feel comfortable with that application. And that's been taking up a lot of time, but I think once it's done, we're gonna find a lot of efficiencies in the way we communicate within the district. And then lastly, we worked really closely with the elementary school and pickup patrol. That was a big lift this very, 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 very late summer, very early school year, so that we could kind of speed up the way we were getting kids to parents. I had a great start of school. The weather was amazing. John, I saw you almost every day. I met so many people and had so many great conversations. Asked for a little bit of patience here and there, but really, I didn't have to ask much because people were freely giving their patience as they watched us work through the process. It was about 4 or 5 days, and we got it pretty sweet. So those are some of the things that we were doing to kind of affect the way everybody interacts with both technology and the real world.
Questions for Josh?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Let's go to our instruction office. Mr. Ebner.
Good to see everybody again. I know it's been a while. I have the awesome, I think I got the, Tom says he always has the best job in the district, but I literally have the best job in the district. I get to say yes to a lot of things. And coming from my last role, in charge of personnel operations and labor relations, I had to say no a lot. So this is a very refreshing opportunity to report on all the things I got to say yes to. But the instruction office, my office, within my office confines, we have our registrar, our district registrar. We have our data person, and my trusty assistant is in that office as well. So I just want to highlight some of their work, and then I'll highlight some of the other work that's going on in the district. But our registrar, Kendra Chambers, she's been with us for a couple years now. We stole her from Cortland. She has registered 200 students since July 1. New students to our district, pre-K through 12. And what she does, the new system we implemented this year, and I just saw the data this afternoon, is 3 weeks after they start school, she reaches out directly to the parents with a survey. And she talks to them on the phone and records what they're saying, just to check in. How's it going? What do you need? How has the transition been? And the data is overwhelmingly positive about how Homer is treating their child or children. So it's data that I really want to share with the board at some point. It's really messy right now because it's one big long spreadsheet. But it is overwhelmingly positive, and that's a testament to the people in all the buildings who take in these children in their new environment and welcome them like they've been here for years. So Kendra does a nice job for us. Susan Pizzola, our data person, she's constantly busy. Not only does she take individual requests from any employee of the district to help them collate data, to look at data, to analyze data, she also does all of our data certification requirements, and if anyone knows that process, Mr. Turk has to certify 4,552 reports to state ed every year, but Susan gets all that data ready to go for TOM certification. So we have spent the bulk of the beginning of the year doing data certification. APPR was the latest one. We just submitted our scores from last year for our teachers and principals. It's our first year using Frontline to record our APPR data from going to a classroom to observe instruction. So we're all new to this system, and Susan was on the forefront, but on the back end, trying to make sure all this information was talking. And with Josh's help, we were able to get all that data collated, get it into a reasonable form, and get it uploaded for certification purposes. Susan is also knee-deep right now in the regionalization data collection process. That's something that all BOCES district superintendents are requiring of school districts, is to collect all this data so they can put together a regional report on all the resources that the various school districts have in each of the BOCES regions. And then Lisa, my secretary, she does a lot as far as taking care of my calendar, but also, because Josh and his team, they're overwhelmed a lot with a lot of different tickets. We also help with online licensing, getting 2D requirements done. I law 2D requirements, 2D confidentiality. We handle that. Last year, we processed 128 new substitutes. Lisa does all of that work. I interview them. She does all the paperwork and reference checks. We're up to 20 new subs so far this year. So my office is, like I said, we do a lot in there, and I get to say yes to a lot of it. Outside of the physical office, my work is the best because the work really happens through the building leadership teams, through our instructional coaches, and ultimately at the ground level with the teaching staff and their work with the kids. So our STEAM advisory team, I had the opportunity to take a couple teachers on September 26th to North Tonawanda School District and look at their STEM program, pre-K through 12. So we got to see their coding programs, we got to see their robotics programs, and we got to take a look at their drone pathway. Next year, high school students will sit for a test at North Tonawanda School District and potentially get their FAA license to fly drones commercially. So that, as far as I'm concerned, if North Tonawanda students can do that, Homer students can do that as well. So we're our plan is to visit other regional schools, whether it be TST schools, OCM schools, or Hugon-Dagabosi schools, just to get a look at what other school districts are doing around the areas of STEM and STEAM education. We're piloting a new assessment system for pre-K through 5. We're taking STAR out for a run to see if this early assessment system for early literacy, ELA, math is something that will provide better information for us as opposed to FastBridge. So right now we're taking a side-by-side look at STAR and FastBridge and see which assessment system best meets our needs to better target our instruction for our children. And again, through the building leadership teams and our instructional coaches, we're continuing to implement our collaboration efforts at the elementary and intermediate school levels. We're starting that work at the junior high level around our MTSS approach and how our adults are collaborating together around student data and monitoring and adjusting our instruction to best serve our students. And the two committees that I meet with regularly, ILC and PLC, I reported on ILC recently. We're taking on a big project this year. We're looking at our technology applications. There's about 328, Josh, I think was the last time we counted. At least 328 technology applications that teachers combined have access to. So we're going to take a hard look at that. And our PLC group met today, and we're looking at still planning our November 5th and our March 31st staff development day for next year. And like anything, it's an ongoing process, but it's going to be a great day for our staff. Does anybody have any questions for the Curriculum Instruction Office?
What's the reasoning for considering STAR?
A lot of our teachers we've hired from other districts have used STAR, and teachers who are veterans of our district used STAR a long time ago. So there's a lot of experience, and it was simply enough people asked to see if we could pilot it, to go back to it. It's come a long way in a very short amount of time. It's almost a different product if you look at it now versus when teachers used it in this district, 10, 15 years ago. The feeling around FastBridge is that, it's the same company, it's Renaissance. It'll provide different data for our teachers to use and our building leadership teams to use. So we're beginning to assess students now. So we don't know what we're going to see yet, but FastBridge testing was done earlier in the year. So we're going to get a real good look at which will best serve our needs as far as what data we want to look at, again, to adjust our instruction. So it was really an ask, and I got to say yes.
And you can give it more often.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
another big one.
It really is a better progress
4 or 5
monitoring tool.
times a year, it's once a month.
Depends on the mayor.
Any other questions for Jeff? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everybody.
Let's go all the way to back to Mr. Lisi in athletics.
The smoke machine
No, I've got it written down.
was hidden, so usually we try to get the smoke machine going, so it's off the fire alarm. So just a quick update on athletics. So I'm gonna compare this year to last year. Okay, so last year in our JV and varsity teams, we offered 15 different teams in JV and varsity sports. We had 287 students sign up for JV and varsity sports last fall. This fall, we had 323 students sign up. And I just did a quick comparison to the number of students we have in high school and to the number of students that are participating in interscholastic sports, and that makes up about 62% of the students in our building in high school are participating in an interscholastic sport. So that's really exciting. Last year, we had 141 students sign up to play at the modified sports level. This year, we had 120 students sign up to play at the modified sports level. That number went down just a little bit, thought we'll probably go back up, I think in the next 2 years to about 150, so kind of a down slope. If I did not bring it up, last year's numbers for JV varsity 287, this year 322. I think the most exciting part, the most exciting number to look at is in grades 7 through 12, we have 209 female students participating in interscholastic school sports, and we have 193 male students participating in interscholastic sports. So it's great to see that number, pretty close to even.
Questions for Mr. Lisi?
You were able to bring back what, JV little soccer team this year?
Yes, so after 3 years, yeah, great question. It's just like, yeah, after 3 years, we were finally able to bring back JV girls soccer. We had 20 girls sign up for that team, which is definitely gonna help, down the line. It's tough to have a program for 3 years without a JV team. And I think we're gonna definitely see the benefits of that, a couple years from now.
Great. Thank you, Todd.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, let's go to food service. Mr. Falls.
Excellent. I get to talk about two of my 3 favorite times during the day, breakfast and lunch. So this year I have a great fondness for the lunch and breakfast program here in the district for many reasons, but I have great news to share. So last year we went to the community eligibility provision, which meant that we could provide free breakfast and lunch for all students across the district. So looking at September 2023, last year, in the month of September, for breakfast, we had on average 313 students eating breakfast every day. With the new eligibility provision, we have 523 students eating breakfast every day. So you're looking at over 200 student increase in 1 year. We're providing a meal for those children. The principals could probably tell you there are certain days more than others where children are lined up down the hallways. Mrs. Falls is smiling at me because I hear about it quite a lot at home. That when the children know that there's a certain item, especially for breakfast on the menu, they make sure they line up and they get down there for that item. Even better news. So last year, looking at our lunch numbers, we had an average of 891 lunches or students eating lunch every day. This year, in 2024, we have 1,086 students eating lunch every day. Now, not only is it awesome that we're providing meals for children, on average between the 2 groups, over 200 compared to last year for breakfast and lunch per meal, but also the reimbursements that we receive back. So to run the program, we've increased our reimbursements from the federal level and the state level, which has enabled us to bring on more staff to assist with providing lunches and breakfast for children. Joan Redfield, who is here on a daily basis, our food service manager, does an outstanding job along with the cooks, the servers, to make sure that they're providing quality meals. We do contract with BOCES, Wendy Swift, that we work with through BOCES, and as well as a nutritionist that works with our folks. So it's really become, and always has been, a very self-sufficient program, but they're really knocking it out of the park to the point now where with our reimbursements and past meal service, we now have some fund balance in those areas where we're going to be able to go back and upgrade serving lines and upgrade some of our machinery in the school lunch program through what we've been able to do there. So again, it makes me very happy to be able to share that information. I'll take any questions you may have.
With that many people getting lunch, is it delaying the learning?
I guess I would defer to the building principals on that.
I will say, having been in the building for years, the 30-minute lunch never took a child 30 minutes to eat. Typically, it's 10, 15 minutes, and they're off and ready to go. Chris, you're nodding your head. So, but you haven't heard of anybody being unable to have the time they need, I wouldn't imagine.
No, so there is obviously lines with that number of kids waiting to eat, but it's never to the point where they're deprived of having enough time to sit down and take their time and not have to rush through lunch.
Any other questions about food service? Okay, special ed, Mr. Moore.
All right, a few different things for you guys, just in terms of general numbers. One thing I learned a minute ago was the percentage of our transfer students that's come in this year. So far this year, we've had 41 students transfer into our district with either an IEP or a Section 504 plan, which I just learned is about 20% of those 200 students who transferred into us, needing some level of service or another. So obviously, that's not nothing, and it's taken a lot of time with building principals and everything to try to figure out how do we best do that and integrate those students into the existing population that we have as well. To go with that, this year we currently have 23 students receiving preschool special education services, 217 who are receiving Committee on Special Education or school age services, and 166 students receiving Section 504, which is that medical accommodation plan that I know we kind of discussed before. So in total, the district right now currently servicing about 406 students on some level of support. As compared to last year, right now, that's about 21 students more than we were at last year. Obviously, that percentage of students who have transferred into us has shown up in our initial data there. I obviously would expect that to increase. Right now, as you know, we're just starting to get into some of our preschool screening processes for this new group of students we have of our 4-year-old program, so I would expect we'll be able to see that. Again, I think that's a great thing because it means that we're finding things that we can help our students out with bright and early, and try to nip those things in the bud and make them as successful as they can be. Overall, again, that's 41 students have come in. Those of you who are curious, 14 who have exited the district from our plan. So in general, about a 22 student difference in terms of where we left off versus where we are this year. In terms of areas of focus, similar to what we talked about with our strategic plan and the things that we were talking about there, 2 years ago, we started on some training of trying to increase our capacities and knowledge bases in our integrated co-teaching classrooms. Clearly, with the numbers I just gave you, we've got students to support, both on the special education and the general education side of the table here for us. So what we've tried really hard to do is to not let those things become one-off trainings and find ways to integrate aspects of continuing conversation and learning in those areas across our different classrooms, which is especially important because each year we're also going to have new staff. So as we do that, we got to make sure that those folks feel like they have some legs to stand on as a part of integrating themselves and supporting our learners. We also are emphasizing this year, one thing that we are working through is we have had a variety of students, that more of an increase, I guess I would say, that are needing a higher level of care in a variety of ways, but one of those areas being when we have emergency drills and needing alternative plans and ways for us to support them and make sure that they can be successful and safe in those scenarios. So one of our initiatives right now is working through how we best develop those plans, how we make sure teachers and principals are aware of what those things are, and how that works now in different reconciliation processes, et cetera, and how we can communicate those things out and do those things. Obviously, we've had some of those things, but we would like to increase how effective we can communicate those and how clear we can make those things known to folks.
Great. Questions for Chris?
Yes. Yep, so families that have moved into the district, of those 200 that Ms. Chambers has registered, 41 of those students have moved in that have required some level of school. And that's what you'll see. I know I have one question. I'm sorry.
About 14 exited services or?
Yes, 14, yep. 14 that transferred out. Obviously, this doesn't take into account your senior class leaving, et cetera. It's looking at that K-12 population this year as compared to the K-12 population last year. And I know one board member did ask me, so as you look through your transmittals, that's what those ones where you see us saying we're accepting those documents in from a new district. Those are transfer students that have come in. Initially, we accept those documents. Our responsibility is to try to implement those documents that come into us as best we can with comparable services, if not the exact services that they came to us with. The reason they say as close as you can is, as you'll see, we get some from out of state where continuums of services, et cetera, are different. So once we do that, you'll also see those same student numbers coming up later on as we do transfer meetings to formalize any recommendations as a part of that acclimation to Homer.
Great. Any other questions for Chris? Thank you for your work. Appreciate it. All right, let's go to the buildings. Let's start with the elementary school. So Mr. Pasquarello and Mrs. Hammonds?
Actually, you two are gonna do it.
Good evening. So we have, in regards to enrollment, we have 430 students. We expect 3 more this week. Last year, we had 483 students. Last year, we also had 93 students in pre-K. This year, we have 86. So understand the difference there. And last year, we also had a second grade class that had 159 students, which Mrs. Falls has inherited. Our average in the other grade levels, just so you understand, kindergarten has 113, first grade has 115 students, and second grade has 116 students. That being said, we've looked at our schedule based on the changes that we've made this year. Some things to keep in mind. Our team is, we've been through 4 schedules in our building, and we spent some time with a gentleman, Elliot, right? Elliot was our scheduling guy. We spent some time with Elliot to make some tweaks to our schedule, and we've kind of hit a stride in that schedule where we think we have a sweet spot. There are some things that we still want to look at changing, besides the daily schedule that has changed for us this school year. For instance, looking to have recess before lunch, and those types of things are things that our staff are talking about, but we're still not ready to make those changes based on how we have our daily schedule and things that are happening there. Our guiding coalition and grade level teams are looking at minor tweaks to our schedule all the time, so those will happen for us throughout the school year, and we're making changes. Currently, we made a schedule coming into this week. So at dismissal, we are now having our walkers, originally we continue to have our walkers at 3:20, but our buses were leaving at 3:50, now our buses are going at 3:40. Why is that important for you all to understand? That's 15 minutes less that our students are spending in the classroom, watching Promethean board, or getting into whatever they may be getting into, right, Mrs. Heyer? And our staff are exiting them and getting them onto their buses, and then getting them over to the intermediate, which we're finding to have great success for our students and our staff. Arrival, just please understand, Mr. Turk has afforded the opportunity for our families. Our staff are not on until, actually, we just changed their times to this week. Originally, they were on at 8:45. Mr. Turk has afforded the opportunity for families to come at 8:30. So at that time for breakfast, we're seeing on average 50 students that are walking in and having breakfast for us. Mr. Falls already went over the numbers, but I'm gonna give you our numbers. We're seeing 160 students eat breakfast in the morning for us. That is up from 120 last year. That is a sizable increase for us, and we're realizing that, but we're also trying to figure out how to work through that. That is a real thing for us. Because our morning does matter. Our morning for us is not just about healthy eating, it's also about that social emotional piece going into the classroom and having a morning meeting. So we're still working through that and those tweaks, and our staff are doing a great job of really trying to figure out how we can incorporate those pieces. And when it came to a schedule, just so you understand too, last year we started our specials at 9:10, this year we're starting our specials at 9:20. So that's when our day is really humming and getting going, whether they're headed to wind time, which is what I need now, intervention, or they're going to specials. So a lot of things are happening for our kids, starting for us in our building at 9:20. Late to school, please share with your families, is 9 o'clock. Last year it was 8:55, but I'm really on this one, 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock. Did you hear me on? 9 o'clock. There's no reason for an elementary kid to be late to school after 9 o'clock. And that people wanted to challenge or have questions about that flexibility on that piece? Absolutely not. 9 o'clock, we all know that. We should all be up and rising by 9. So, back to arrival, we talked about and we said, what we're realizing is that our students are getting out of the cafeteria sometime after 9:05, 9:10. So then they're pushing back into their classrooms. So we're still working through that. We're trying to realize some changes with that. We're asking our transportation department too to know that now our staff are on duty starting at 8:35. We'd like our buses in as soon as they can in the morning so we can capture some more time in the morning to actually not have any impact that our staff may have felt based upon any type of changes. And when it comes to dismissal, like I said, we realize the 15-minute gap in change. The fact that kids are not in the classroom sitting and waiting, because second buses, this is why it's really important for all to understand the change, that having one bus run is really great for us. Having second buses in our building, they sat for 35 minutes. All right, more time than any other kid in the building, they waited. And they were waiting for a bus. This year, they're waiting 20. So to me, that's a great realization of our time.
The only things I will add are like our building initiatives, the things that we're really focusing on. So, we worked with, Solution Tree, Barb Phillips, right? To help us develop this goal. So by June of 2025, so last year we designed this goal. By June of 2025, we want to have 60% of our students pre-K to 2 meeting grade level literacy benchmark. Right now, as of September, we're at 49%. So it's good to have that data, and now we can build going forward. Our other big initiative is SEL. Obviously, our core curriculum is Second Steps. All of our classrooms are using that. We're also, through team meetings and just conversations, we're determining places where our social workers and our psychologists can infuse extra lessons. So I know that we have folks, classrooms, despite our best planning, that need like self-control lessons. So we have our mental health team pushing in to do extra lessons. For supplemental instruction, we're also utilizing data, or we're going to be utilizing data from VIMUS, which is our screener, for further intervention for individual kids, small groups of kids. And then I guess the last big thing is that with our wonderful librarian, Karen Keith, retiring, we also retired Helping Hands. If you heard of, if you have little kids, Helping Hands is gone. So in its place, we're doing Blue Pride Awards, which are more tied to Second Steps. So we're having every single staff member, going back to your question, every single staff member in our whole building has to give 2 Blue Pride Awards at least, maybe more, per month. We want to recognize all of our kids, and we want to make sure that we're recognizing the positive behaviors. We're tying it on the little certificate. We circle, what part of Second Steps is the focus, and then just for our positive reinforcer, really. And then we're also starting bi-monthly assemblies, also connected to Second Steps, and they're really going to be student grade level led. And every staff member went through and we assigned everybody to grade levels. So second grade's gonna do an assembly on November 13th at 2:30. And it's second grade teachers and students, but it's also like the ENL teacher, or we just like randomly grabbed everybody and assigned them a grade level. And even pre-K will do an assembly later in the year. I think that's it.
Well, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say, Mrs. Hamus, the numbers that we had for dismissal. On average, we're dismissing 165 students either by walking or by car. Today, we dismissed 161 students by walking or by car in 7 minutes. And then we're on average boarding 265 students on the bus, and we're doing that in 4 minutes. So that says a lot about what teachers are doing to train kids. As silly as some people may think it sounds, having that animal on the bus really makes a big difference for our kid, and being in the correct line order matters too. So those small details matter, and our transportation office makes sure that it happens. Even if a bus pulls in early, they pull to the side so the penguin or whoever can go by. So it does matter for us, and it does help us every day.
Wonderful. Questions? So folks in the elementary school.
How many students are in the classroom? What's your average size classroom? I don't know the average, but I know that we have second grade's got a couple at 20. Our smallest class size, I think, is 14, but we're putting new students in it, so 15, so anywhere 15 to 20.
And we can get exact numbers,
Yeah.
Amy.
We
Why don't we can plan on doing that for next time, we can get those.
And how many social workers or counselors do you have in your building? We have 2 social workers, and we have 2 psychologists. So Janelle Fairhands is the pre-K dream, and then Jacqueline Davis, and then Zoe Walters, and Amanda Hudson's our community liaison position. Is she considered one of the social workers, or she's in addition? We consider her our social worker.
Pre-K has 17.2, kindergarten has 16.1, first grade has 19.2, and second grade has 19.3. We don't have any .3
15 to 20.
She passes at 20.
Any other questions for Doug and Aaron? Thank you, folks, for the work, appreciate it. Mrs. Pauls, the intermediate school, please.
So the intermediate school, we have increased our numbers. We have 444 students there. We talked about the second grade, so we welcomed 8 sections of third grade this year with an average class size of 19. We have 6 grade 4 classrooms with an average size of 23, and we have 7 fifth grade with a class size of 22. So we have 21 homerooms, so we are up homerooms this year. So We did some little rearranging. You may have remember, we have some new hires, and we also have welcomed quite a few staff from the elementary school with some of those shifts. So we are very happy to have that and moving forward with that. So in the intermediate school, we are doing some things that are similar to the elementary school. We did have our dismissal process that we changed, and I think it's working. We found a way. We had a lot of support from the district and the community to get that going. So we have 2 different areas that we dismiss our walkers from, which are, Mr. Turk maybe knows off the top of his head, I can't remember, it's 130 or 160 a day.
Yeah, 160 total, but we have A through H in the bus loop and I through Z over in the new lot, parent lot.
So
That
and
seems to be the magic.
It seems to be the
potion,
magic,
yeah.
and Homer PD has been very supportive, and our SROs to get that going, as well as our staff. So we are happy with that. We are also, last year, we implemented the second step curriculum with cooperation of Dr. Donna Bittito from SUNY Portland. She has retired and was looking to sub, and I said, sub, come on in. So she helped us implement that program with Fidelity and helped us really look at that and how to present it and how to work through it. So we are happy with that. So we have full implementation this year. Our student council was taken over by, we have new advisors, which are Kelly Brown and Lisa Matias, 2 of our social workers. And they integrate second step into our presentations, where last assembly, we welcomed the Homer football team. Several students from the varsity team came over, and we had 3 seniors that presented how they use goal setting in their lives and in sports. So, which is our first unit with second step. So we thank them for coming over. They came over before the homecoming game. So we are going to have different guests to talk about our different themes each month. Also with our student council, we had over 30 students that were interested. So we now have implemented a peer mentor program. We have tried that kind of off and on. It is an evidence-based method to work with kids. So we have a lot of 5th graders that are going to be mentors, and we hope that we can have more. So that will also be a part of our student council, Pride Council. Our social workers also work with the BIMAS data, much like the elementary school, to look at what classroom presentations are needed based upon that data overall. We have not done that first implementation of BIMAS, that's later this month. We have looked, so our schedule changes. We are directly impacted because we share our facilities with the junior high. So that has made some different changes also. So our cafeterias have changed a little bit based upon the junior high schedule and when we can have it. So we also want to make it spaced out. So that has changed up a little when we use the cafeterias and how we use it. But also with the changes in the junior high schedule and our dismissal process, it's given us more time for chorus and instrumental music. Because the junior high doesn't need the band room at that time, we have longer periods. So our students that are active in those groups get dismissed with the bussers, so they get extra time. So that has given us extra time. We were able to shift rooms, so our instrumental can have a bigger room with more ensemble. So we really were able to work together to help expand that. We have, Mrs. Hammis did not mention that we are still working together, PDS, liaison, and working, we have a new person from SUNY Cortland that we're working with the childhood. So we have 20 college students, undergraduates, that are across. The elementary school actually has 12, and we have 8. So we're happy to have those extra hands, extra ideas, and extra pieces in our classroom. And we also are working with PLC, and we'll have a big announcement that you'll see soon about our work with PLC.
Great. Questions for Mrs. Falls?
How many social workers and psychologists do you have in your building?
I have my 2, Lisa Matias, Kelly Brown, and we have Lori Schmidt, who is our school psychologist. And then we also have family counseling services, who works across the buildings, but she also works a lot with our students. And we have a social worker intern from CUCA. So she's an MSW, she's there 2 days a week.
Can she see students one-on-one, or is she just?
She'll do groups mostly, but she'll be working, she's helping with implementing and learning, but we will eventually she'll be doing groups and working with students also.
The level program she is, they do different internships for the social work program, so she's at the higher level internship at this point, so she is in assistance.
Any other questions for staff? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Let's go to the flagship. Mrs. Schneider
Thanks, Mr. Turk.
and Mrs. Seibel.
We've had a wonderful start of our school year at the junior high. We have great kids in our building, amazing staff that are working really hard to meet the needs of all of our students and stay positive with some of the changes that have occurred this year at the junior high. So we're really happy with the start. One of our greatest additions is Morgan Seibel. She's my administrative intern and has really been making the start of the school year run so much smoother. She's a great help and we're happy to have her. So she'll take some of the fun things to talk about today. But I'll get to the numbers. Last year, at the start of school, we had 384 students at the junior high. At the start of the school year, this year we had 397. We have 139 sixth graders, 130 seventh graders, and 128 eighth graders. And that was at the start of the school. We've actually gained a couple of students. We're almost up to 400 in the building as we speak. Our schedule for our day changed this year. So we used to run 7:40 a.m. was the start. They were after 7:40, they were late. But we went to 2:20, and we had 9 periods in the day and 2 lunch periods during that time in the past. And then we had our 10th period, which was our extra help and our club time and things like that. But with the late buses not being consistent, kind of led to a change there. This year, our start time is now 7:45, and knock on wood, our students are getting there on time for the most part. Our lines are much shorter in the main office in the morning. Still need to work on 7:45. And our day ends at 2:35. At the beginning of the year, we had a 2:40 dismissal. That got changed about the second week of school to help with the elementary and the intermediate busing. So really, if you're good at math, that means we gained 10 minutes from last year in the school day. One of the things that we were tasked to do was to increase our academic periods to 40 minutes. It had previously been 38 minutes. So again, if you're doing the math, I'm short 6 minutes. So that came out of our post time, which is our partners of teachers and students and teachers, homeroom. That's down to 5 minutes. It was 7 minutes in the past. And our junior high work period, which is our 9th period of the day, is down to 28 minutes. It had been 32 previously. So that period has taken on a lot of different roles. It's collaboration time for some of our teachers because we don't have team time at the junior high anymore. It's club time for our students, and it's extra help time. So we're really kind of doing our magic, all hands on deck. Every single teacher is assigned a team, even if they're a special area teacher, and they're going into the classrooms and helping the teachers and the students during the junior high work period to make all that happen. And so, like I said, there's little growing pains, but we're making it happen, and kids still have opportunities to partake in clubs and get the help that they need from their teachers. Second step, we had done that in 9th period, our junior high work period last year. The kids did not enjoy it. So we surveyed them and got their input about what they liked, what they didn't like, what would they like to see in the future, and they said the end of the day was not the time to talk about SEL. So we are now doing once a month hour delay schedules at the junior high where our students work on second step with their post groups, so a smaller group of students in the morning, where they can do a couple of lessons back to back, kind of roll off of it because they're topic driven. And that seems to be, we had one in September, our next one is Friday. But the feedback as we walked around was really good. The kids were participating and enjoying it, and some teams came up with some really creative ideas. So we're happy about that. The junior high dismissal and arrival really worked well after the first week, I would say. Our parents were good. They got the flow of traffic down. Our adults were out there. We had help from the district office, and that really was not an issue for us at the junior high, and we are really appreciative of that new parent parking lot and the flow that allows our students to safely get into cars and not run across the parking lot. So that was a great change for us at the junior high. On to the fun stuff. All right.
Okay.
Our focus for the year aligns with the district belief statement that we want to foster a positive school environment where all students feel like they belong. And to kind of start the year off, we did our opening day assembly, and at that assembly, we talked about what Blue Pride means to our district and to our staff, and we discussed the importance of living Blue Pride and demonstrating our core values of kindness, respect, belonging, and commitment. And we even took that a step further, and we were able to make a video of some of the staff members describing what Blue Pride means to them. And what's amazing about that phrase is it does mean something a little bit different to everybody, and what's great about it is each meaning is just as important as the last. So it was great for the kiddos to be able to see what some of the people they're learning from believe that Blue Pride means to them, and we were excited to be able to share that with them. And so with that being said, we also, very similar to the elementary school, are doing positive recognitions with the Blue Pride Award. And with that being said, staff are responsible and trying to look out for the kiddos who are doing great things, and we want to recognize those great things with that Blue Pride Award. And so what they do is they keep an eye out, they find the kiddos doing the awesome stuff that they're already doing, and then we give them that award, and they record it in a spreadsheet. And with that, at the office, we have a board outside of our office, and we change out the faces of who's been recognized along with their name right outside the office every 2 weeks. So we have been changing that up, and we've already changed the board 3 times, and 110 students have been recognized already, 93 of those being all different students, which is a great start to our goal of 400, which is what we're hoping to hit by the end of the year. We also are doing our mentoring program where we are connecting staff with students. Staff have recognized students that could benefit from having a positive role model within their school day, and where they could reach out with any questions, concerns, or just somebody to go to and have a conversation with that they're gonna get some great feedback on and really have them in their best interest. So we've started that program. We have our first mentor meeting coming right up, where we're gonna talk about how we've already connected with the students that we're paired with and how we can move forward and continue to support them the best that we can. And then lastly, we rolled out student bulletin boards, so you're gonna see those in the main office hallway. And basically what that is we've assigned each bulletin board to one of the teams that are in the junior high, and what we want there is for students to decorate that board with what's going on within their team. And so it's an opportunity to give the student a voice and for them to share what's important to them. And it's been really fun to see the creative things that they've come up with and what they want to share with the rest of the school and what they're doing on a daily basis. One thing that I forgot when I was talking about the schedule, one of the changes we made this year, and Mrs. Falls kind of spoke to it about lunches, back to Elliott, Marion Bloom, talked about having each grade level have their own lunch period. In the past, our 6th grade has had to have lunch separate by teams. And so this year, a change we made based on feedback we got before COVID from families and kids is that each grade level has their own lunch period, and they're in the junior high cafeteria with access to our courtyard, which is a great place with picnic tables and outdoor space. So all the students in the junior high have the opportunity to benefit from that great space and then be with all of their peers. So if their best friend is on another team, they still, get to see them and have lunch with them. And that's been a really positive change as well.
Great. Questions for Morgan or Kara?
I have 2 social workers. One of those is a family liaison. I have 1 school psychologist and 2 school counselors. Or we have, sorry.
I also can confirm, I've heard some really nice things about the lunch change
Good.
for the 6th grade, that they're enjoying that.
Appreciate that.
When you bump for an hour to do the assembly, does that mean that every class is shortened?
Just a little bit shorter. Yeah, and we talked as a staff after we got the feedback in what we called our site-based team, but now is called Guiding Coalition. And they felt like the benefit was much greater than losing a couple minutes once a month from all of their classes. Yep.
Any other questions? Thank you, ladies. Appreciate it. Lastly, we have our 2 gentlemen from the high school, Mr. McGorgy and Mr. Manette.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. We will be a little shorter with some of this because we spent a little bit of time at the top tonight really to talk about probably one of the more significant changes at the high school to start out the year with the schedule and hearing from our students. And it's always great to hear from our students. Like everyone, I can't say enough thank yous to student, staff, and our families as well with some of the changes that are new and different. Even though not as significant here at the
the high school, certainly they're evident and notable, and again, folks have been patient, shown grace, and worked through little tweaks and turns as we needed to make adjustments. From an enrollment standpoint, we're a total of 615 students under the roof of the high school, 28 of those being students from the OC and BOCES STAR program, 587 in our program here at the high school, the general education program operated by the district. Grade levels are are similar in 9th and 10th grade at 154 students, 140 students, grade 11, 139 grade 12. Grade 12 is a little bigger. We're a little bit smaller as a 9-12 building than we were last year, but not by a lot. Like I said before, the new schedule started. Students have really adjusted quickly with little changes. Staff are working through that. Mrs. Snyder talked about some of the challenges at the end of the day, period 9 in her schedule, and for us, it's coming to how do we do all the things that happen at the end of the day. I think we've done well with activities and actually expanding some opportunities for students and staff to interact. A lot of things came into that end of day period in regards to parent and family and staff interactions. So we're moving those throughout the day and doing some different scheduling, and we'll work through that as things go along. Morning and afternoon dismissals, certainly a little bit simpler here because the changes are less significant, but again, they're notable. Morning routine seems to have gone a little bit easier. Folks are great in pulling all the way up and using that single lane. The problem is in the afternoon, they don't want to use 2 lanes, and so oftentimes you'll see me wave in and trying to encourage folks to come into those second lanes, so we're not spilling back out onto Center Street. Most days that's pretty good, and we've been working again to help our drivers get out quickly so that they can keep the rest of the trains, or as it is buses, on time. We were happy today to christen, welcome the opening of 3 bathrooms in the high school. Our first floor south bathrooms came on, our ground floor south bathrooms, both of those came online, and one of the bathrooms on the first floor south came online. Again, when we talk about students and patients and staff and patients, it's a huge area. You know, you don't think a lot about that, but when you think about the schedule that students and staff are running through, the limited amount of time to try and get out and deal with that. Staff have been patient with students who needed more time, sometimes coming late to class because it's not just as simple as catching the one on the floor that you're on. And I appreciate that cooperative effort and that patience, and I think folks have been great about that and working through that. So we're happy to have those open. We're looking for that last student bathroom to be open, and there's a staff bathroom that I know the staff are eager and anticipating on that. Wanted to take some time tonight to offer comments on homecoming. There were some great student activities over the course of the week, and on Friday, students look forward to the Spirit Days, and you heard the students talk about that tonight. Student government leads a number of the homecoming activities in our Spirit Days. Early on during our return to school in September, student government indicated that it wanted to have homecoming court selections that were not based on gender this year. This is something that's come up in recent years, but more towards the end of the process of organizing homecoming rather than the beginning. Student government discussed a variety of options and organized a process for this to proceed. Staff were asked to select 10 seniors for the court versus a number of students from each gender in the past. Students received a list of seniors on the court and were asked to select 2 from the list of seniors for homecoming royalty. At halftime on Friday, the student body selections were announced, and student government had finished what has been typical of their process in leading our homecoming and Spirit Week activities. Student government will be meeting, as they discussed, they're meeting Wednesdays and Thursdays. In upcoming meetings, we'll discuss Spirit Week, and we'll discuss homecoming, as it typically has, and we'll take time to discuss the homecoming court and homecoming royalty portion of homecoming activities as well, in an effort to learn and improve those future events. Happy to answer questions you might have for Jim and I relative to the opening of school.
I'm curious how many social workers
We're blessed. We've had a social worker consistent with the high school over the years and added a family liaison who's a social worker as well. So 2 social workers. We've had a school psychologist consistently over time. There are 3 guidance counselors, a .6 school and community counselor through OC and BOCES itinerant services. And we have, I would count right along with that, support from family counseling services with a counselor 1 day a week. And our Liberty Partnership Program really does mentoring and counseling as well, although not by a licensed person. Certainly it is support as well. We're lucky to have those folks doing the great work they do with our students and our families and our staff. Thank you.
Other questions for Doug?
I got a question.
Yeah.
So I've had a lot of community outreach explanation as to change and tradition, and why there wasn't some more communication around that.
So the student government, as I mentioned, has a couple times over the past years come late in that process to ask for consideration of changing how we address that. This year, they started earlier on in that. I'll give you kind of an overview of the student communication that's taken place. I'm gonna ask them to take a look at it and have obviously some conversations at how that's gone forward, and Mrs. Weathers here is one of their advisors who's done that. It's just, so I'm always careful to make sure that the things that I can, that I need to leave to the students to lead, that I do that. So the question then for me is, how do I tell students to communicate that to the community, and what is the role in that?
Or how can
From a
we
student,
communicate that?
beg pardon,
How can we communicate, the school communicate that to community?
which part?
Basically the change and.
Sure. We can certainly talk about ways how best to do that. Because we typically, and again, certainly these are long-standing traditions, so I think there's obviously things that folks are used to in that regard and seeing, so we can certainly talk about, what do we do, what do we need to do differently if changes like that are made. I will tell you, I think our students probably, it is more of a conversation item for us who have been around and seen those traditions over time than it is for our students that are coming up through that. And, candidly, Casey, I again, as I've said, try to lead to the students and their advisors to lead the way in that regard versus to dictate this is how we're gonna do that. Maybe there should have been greater community conversation on that advance of homecoming. That there's a balance you have to strike in there. To not make it sound like, again, we're directing students how to do that, or that we're trying to make certain statements based on student decisions and try to use them as a means to have a discussion in the community. So that's something that I think as we continue, because I expect we'll continue to experience changes in traditions just like we have in other ways as well over time. How do we better communicate that with our community?
Thank you.
Certainly.
Any other questions for Doug or Jim? Go ahead.
Do you feel that's just on this particular topic, that's something that we can expect for future things like prom or something like that, just to help us?
The only time that I've experienced the request came through student government in this activity. That's not been something that our junior and senior classes have discussed. Can I tell you that it will or won't be? I can't. It's responding to the student voice, and we try to do that.
Great.
To the comments that Casey and I offered in return to him, we need to be mindful of how do we not have folks feel like they're caught off guard by that. Again, when something that's more for us is traditional is something that we feel caught off guard by, and for our students feels like, we're changing and making new traditions.
Anybody else?
More of a, not necessarily, I guess more of a comment than anything, but I think, as one of the guys that's on that community engagement committee, I think this is something we really need to look at and make it a piece that we address, right? So that we're ahead of these things, instead of behind.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else? All right, thank you, gentlemen, appreciate it.
That's it.
I hope you don't mind, I think, how we begin the school year and all of the activities going on, I know it took some time for us to share that, but in my estimation, there's nothing more important than doing it. So hope folks don't mind that we took an hour to give you an update. This is all important stuff.
Most people. It's all good. All right, so that's gonna move us to our new business. And so with that, I will take a motion to approve the external audit and corrective action plan. Questions or comments? So we have tonight with us, Wade Schoen from Insero, our external auditors. Before the approval, I didn't know if anyone had any questions for Dwayne in regards to the audit. So feel free to ask if you do.
That's okay.
The good news, Dwayne, you learned a lot about our school district.
Yes, I did.
What was it,
No, it
90
was-
minutes?
There you go.
It was
90 minutes.
it was a good hour. It's always good to hear.
Good stuff,
the
right?
details. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Kind of assuming like the extra classroom, this is my 6th year on the board, so
Yep.
every year that comes up, I'm assuming that's not a uniquely Homer challenge?
It is not. No, it's not. Most of the districts that we work with have some level of that issue. And when we were talking about it in the audit committee, we were all saying, you know, it has improved in terms of the frequency and the number of comments that are in there. There's less, certainly less than it's been. So that's good news. Yep.
Any other questions for Dwayne?
Okay? Thanks, everybody. Okay?
Thank
See
you,
ya.
sir.
Yep.
Good night.
So now we'll take action on the plan, so all those in favor? Opposed? Motion to approve the warrant reports and claim auditors reports. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion to approve the treasurer's report.
Second.
Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? We have a few items there for information, the investment summary and the budget status report and revenue status report. We'll move to motion to approve the reports from the Committee on Special Education. Questions or comments? Mr. Moore is ready. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion to approve the disposal of items from the elementary and intermediate school.
Second.
Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion to approve the environmental club's trip to Brookhead's property for October 19th to 20th.
Second.
Questions or comments?
Yeah, she's been subbing for us.
It's great to see her.
Additional questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion to approve the DECA students traveling to Orlando, Florida, April 25th through 30th, 2025, to attend the DECA conference.
And I would just add, that's if we have students that qualify. We sent them, if you remember those on the board last year, we sent a group to California, but we did it at the last minute. So they hopefully will have to have these kids go, because that means they've been successful at the regional and the state level. So just wanted to make that point.
Very good. So now I need a motion so we can.
Second.
Questions or comments? The only thing I would ask that we might entertain is taking a group of students to Orlando with one chaperone may not be the best situation for that one chaperone. Just a general practice of 2 adults, because if, heaven forbid, something happens to that adult, I would just invite them to consider that, just for some safety.
Oh, my
and
God.
I don't know, I have to read, yeah, that's a great question.
Doug, we had 2 that went last year, didn't we?
So we did, we don't know what our numbers are in that regard, and in times of smaller trips, especially like this, where it's a known organization and they're neighboring districts, we make sure that we have conversations with school administrators about how do we hold together, because it isn't just Homewood that's in that boat.
Right.
It's other districts as well who, if we can team up, we can do that and have done that. So if it's a larger group, absolutely. Chris Moore said he wants to go. I'm afraid we've seen him in Orlando personally, but we'll absolutely make sure.
Very good. Let's not go down that road any further. Additional questions or comments?
Yeah.
All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion to approve OCM BOCES consulting services resolution for the superintendent search process.
The only thing on it is there needs to be a correction, it says Homer Syracuse.
Let's get it in action before we do comments. So I got a motion, a second. Can't discuss it until we get it fully.
Even if it's not correct.
We can discuss that as a correction. Now that we have that, questions, comments? So,
This third paragraph says Homer Syracuse Central School District, unless we're planning on making big changes there.
I don't think we're going there yet, so.
We're talking regionalization.
Well, let's not.
All right, so in the third paragraph,
The
John,
third paragraph says whereas the Homer Syracuse Central School District.
okay,
I just need Syracuse.
okay, all right.
And really, this is our opportunity as a board to discuss this option. We don't need to make other search decisions, but this is the first decision of, do we want to figure this out on our own? Do we want to use the services of OCM BOCES, or do we want to seek out another consultant? And so this is our time as a board to discuss that and walk through that. Anybody that wants to engage that, this is your space.
I feel like we should make a move to, work with, Matt in this position. I think he will help guide us in that right direction. Also too, I think there's no need for us to be going to outside services and wasteful with school money, to be looking for this. I think he's a great asset, and we should absolutely be moving forward with that.
Any other discussion?
Is there a limit on how many you can take? You just couldn't be superintendent, drop it off.
I don't know.
He would be the first to tell us if there were, because there, I know that some of them that have notified their districts recently won't be using, because they've used other people in the past. So not everybody you see will be necessarily working with OCM BOCES.
Additional question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, then that moves us to personnel. Remember, as amended. A motion to approve personnel as amended.
So moved.
Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? I believe that's informational items.
Yes, we have some fundraising updates from the high school. A number of groups will be conducting fundraising activities, the FFA, class of 2026, our SAD group, our UNICEF group, our DECA group, and class of 2025, and the Ionian. So a number of opportunities coming up for fundraising from the high school.
We are now at the portion of our evening for public comment. Nobody has signed up. Anybody willing or wanting to share with us? You get 2 minutes of fame and glory. All right, not hearing any or seeing any remove that place. We'll move to board committee reports. Audit committee?
Is there anything that any of the audit committee members wanted to add based upon what? Okay.
I guess, yeah, just thank you to the people who worked on that piece, Melissa and Mike. Another really, really well done audit. Very few things.
It's a team effort from our department, with Trina Hapgood, Andrea Davis as well, and then our work, we do utilize the treasurer at OCM BOCES, Courtney Spraker, so.
Oh, it's super impressive.
And I'll say this, to the amount of work that they all do, for now a $49 million budget is impressive on their parts. Many people in our office wear a lot of different hats to get the job done. So, I commend them, they do it.
Don't believe we have any district committee reports. Is that right, Gary?
That's correct.
All right, brings us to our board member activities.
I went to a Blue Ribbon meeting with Matt Cook, he led the meeting, that was really eye-opening. I'm super grateful that my kids are gonna be out with those hours to play, that was, I was like, wow. I didn't have any idea. So that was interesting, and I got invited into a classroom, and I got to felt like they held their attention longer than I had expected, so that was a nice surprise. And it was the first classroom I ever volunteered in the winter, and then I did math, so I thought that was different teacher, but very sweet. And games, very games. That was just.
All right, they have their chance, so upcoming events.
I'll keep this brief. The open house at the junior high school is on Thursday night this week. And on Friday night, we have the elementary PTO movie night. Is that not accurate, Doug? It's been removed from the calendar? Has it been rescheduled? Okay, all right. So one of the things that we do know that's happening is you have your open house next Thursday night, the 17th. So a couple of opportunities to get in and see the great things going on.
Motion to adjourn. All in favor? I'll be there.
Thank you, everybody.